again, thank you everyone for being here. Talking about money is one of the most exciting topics for me. I love talking about money. I love accumulating money, and I love checking my bank balance on a daily basis. So if there's any one of you that when you check your bank balance, you do not have a smile on your face, you're definitely in the right place. Because we're going to talk more about financial literacy. I am Sharnella Clark. I am a business owner. I am a speaker. I am an author and a financial coach. And today, obviously, we're here to talk about money. We're talking about how to alleviate some of the falsehoods that some people have been raised to believe. There's a lot of misconceptions about money, and we're going to talk about those. But right now, the objective is to create a healthy attitude towards money and the possibility for your life. The mindset behind saving, spending, and investing so that you can achieve the lifestyle that you want. We're going to talk about wealth accumulation strategies necessary to create options for your future. And I hope that by the end of this presentation, you'll have a renewed confidence and a clearer vision for building the life that you want. Okay, so why am I passionate about financial literacy? The reason being is that I wasn't raised with a lot of means. My parents always discuss how poor they were. I grew up in a single family home. My parents, they separated when I was young, so both my parents struggled financially. And so I looked at them and I thought, wow, you know, this really isn't how I want to live my adult life and for the rest of my life. And even though as a child my mom would teach me to save, she would say, okay, when you do get money for your birthday or on the occasion when I do give you a few dollars, you know, to buy some snacks, if you have a few pennies left over, put it in your piggy bank. So on one hand, she was teaching me to save, but then on the other hand, at the end of the year, I would take all of that money in my piggy bank and spend every dime on Christmas gifts. So she really didn't teach me how to save and accumulate wealth. What she taught me is to save for a little while, and then on the back end, you're broke again. And so I think that's the cycle that a lot of us have, our parents unknowingly have taught us. And so we need to kind of alleviate those behaviors that we were taught before. And let's create some healthy behaviors. So I made a promise again to myself. At the age of 15, there was someone who entered into my life, and this person helped change my life for the better. And at the age of 15, I decided that when I did have children, I wanted them to live a better life than I had lived. And I decided that I wanted to drive, you know, a nice vehicle. I wanted to live in a big, beautiful home, and I wanted to have a six-figure bank account. And every one of those things I accomplished by the age of 35. And so I thought to myself, along the way, I had been giving people advice because I would always be joyful and talk about how much money I was saving while other people were bragging about, oh, I spent this much money on this and I spent that much money on this. I'm looking at them like, well, I saved $1,000 this month. What about you? And so they would look at me and then they would start to ask questions. Well, how do you do that? And I would give advice away for free. But what I learned was a lot of times they weren't really taking the advice. They would listen for the moment. But then when some shiny new thing came up and they wanted something, they just reverted back to their old spending habits. And it was quite frustrating. So I thought, you know, I really would like to help change the way people think about money, the way they spend it, and the way they make it grow. So there's a lot of barriers to creating wealth. And we're going to talk about some of those barriers. First of all, if I hand you, this is not real money, so don't steal off with it. Take a few $100s. You take a few $100s. Let's give you a few hundred. Would you like a couple?
Oh, sure. Of course I
We'll give the two of you a few $100.
Thank you.
Give you a few 50s, you a few 50s, and you a few 50s. So the reason I'm doing this exercise right now is because I want to understand, I don't know what household you were raised in or what you were taught to believe about money, but how is money good and how is money bad? Does anyone think that money is good? Okay. Now, this is not a trick question. I'm just trying to understand what your beliefs are. So for everyone who thinks money is good, raise your hand. Okay. Does anyone think that money is bad? Okay. So there's two of you. So for what reason do you think money is bad?
I think like gambling it away is bad. Having an abundance of it and being frivolous with it. So, I mean, money isn't bad. I think it's what you do or don't do.
Gotcha. Right there. Exactly. What about you?
Kind of similar to what she said.
Exactly. It's not the money, because look at the money. What is the money going to do to you? Is the money going to hurt you? Is it going to force you to do things with it that you shouldn't do? No, that's a conscious decision that you decide to make. Again, it's bad choices. And so if you don't know how to manage a small amount of money when you have it, even if you won the lottery tomorrow for $5 million, you still wouldn't know what to do with it. You'd probably, like you say, you'd probably go spend it frivolously. You probably announce it on a bullhorn to all your friends and family members, and then guess what they're going to do? Everybody's going to attach to you. Every bad thing will attach to you and put you in a position where maybe you're not going to make good choices. But what can that money do for you today? Like if that was real money, what could that do for you today?
Could pay some bills off.
Thank you. Yes. Money is a tool. And that's how I want you to think of it. We use a hammer to hammer in nails. We use drills to screw in nails. This money is a tool, and that's how you have to look at it. Most of you are going to work hard for your money, and maybe not physically, but maybe mentally. A lot of jobs today are stressful. So why not spend your money appropriately and in a way that it's going to help you for your future? So in essence, we determined that money in itself is not bad. It's the bad choices that people make. So here I want to talk about some limiting beliefs that some people have taught. Money is the root of all evil. You guys heard that one? Money can't buy you happiness. I'm not good with money. I don't deserve to be wealthy. My God, when I heard someone say that, I was thinking to myself, wait a minute, did I really hear that? Okay. More money, more problems. They even had a rap song about that one. I'm too young or too old to build wealth. So let's go through every one of these limiting beliefs. Again, money is not evil. Money is a tool that we use to purchase the things that we need. People who have an abundance of money, they're not bad. And so I don't want you, because there's a lot of people that think, oh, you know, they're rich, so they have to be bad. They're rich, so they must have done something wrong in order to acquire the wealth that they have. Well, there's bad poor people. There's bad rich people. It just all depends on the human being. But money is a tool, and think of it in that way. Money can't buy me happiness. Well, I'm going to say personally, yes, money did bring me happiness, because when I was a kid, I heard a lot of no's. And I would get picked on at school because I didn't wear the nicest clothes. And, you know, my hair wasn't, you know, fancy and pretty. But again, I determined that, okay, I'm going to hit the books, I'm going to study, I'm going to do that thing that I need to do so that I can change the trajectory of my life. And it's not about where you come from, because no one can help the situation under which they were born, but the decisions that you make can either create a bright future, or it can create a future that is more dull and more glum. Okay, you can learn how to manage money. If you're bad with money, that is fixable. You can learn how to manage it correctly. And for those of you who may think to yourself, you don't deserve to be wealthy, I'm telling you today, yes, you do. It's a mindset. And you have to first change your mindset about how you think about money. Because, again, if you despise rich people or you despise people with money, why would you ever become something that you despise? So you're repelling wealth without even really realizing it. More money, fewer problems. Like you said, with money, you get to pay your bills on time. You get to save and invest for your future, for future growth. You can go on vacation whenever you like. If you're working a job that you hate, you can say bye-bye at any time. You don't have to work until you're almost in the grave. I think, what is it, 67 and a half right now? Maybe going up to 69. Who really wants to work till they're 69 if they're working a job that they don't like? So it brings you opportunities. The reason that a lot of people have problems when they have money is because, number one, you're telling other people that you have money. It's no one else's business what is in your bank account. If someone else is struggling, you know what I say? Because I got to a point in my life where I was trying to fix everybody's financial problems. I was giving out, loans to family members, and they wouldn't pay me back. And they would say, oh, you're good. You got plenty of money. You don't need my money. Excuse me, it wasn't your money. I loaned you my money to pay your bills, and now you're not paying me back. So I had to get to a place where I stopped talking about where I was. Now they obviously, when they come to my house, they could see that we were doing well. But when someone would call me and I knew that they were heading down a path of, woe is me and my rent is due. I'm like, oh, really, girl? I tell you, my budget was just way off this month. Let me tell you what happened to me. And I started crying the same game that they were trying to play on me. And guess what? They stopped calling because the only thing they wanted from me was what they could get from me. But when I offered the knowledge of how I got to where I was, they didn't want to hear that. So we stopped talking, and that was fine with me. So it's the people, it's the company that you keep. So if you do come into a large sum of money, keep it quiet. Don't talk to anyone else, and don't feel guilty about it either. So for those of you who say that you're too young, I didn't even write this one on there. You've got years. How old are you?
24.
Oh my God, you're the same age as my daughter. If I could go back to 24, God, I'm almost 51. If I could go back to 24, you've got decades. You're in the right place to hear the right message. And if you do it right, you'll become a millionaire by the time you're 40 or before then, okay? Okay. So for those of you who say that you're too old, no, you're not. Colonel Sanders became a multi-millionaire at the age of 70. What most people don't know is that before he started his own KFC business, he went to various other businesses presenting his recipe to try to get them to buy his business idea. And so eventually he just decided, after so many rejections, he decided, well, you know what, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to start my own business. And then it turned into a franchise. He became a multimillionaire at 70. It is not too late. And then let's look at Warren Buffett. He made majority of his wealth after the age of 50. So that should be quite inspiring. Okay, so for some of you, there are really two reasons why most people struggle financially. Either you don't earn enough money because your education level is not at a place where you can help an abundance of people, or you chose a career in which there are fewer jobs. So with the young generation just starting out, always, like I told my daughter, let's start from the back end. What lifestyle do you want to live? Okay? What career path is going to get you to the lifestyle that you want to live? Yes, salary does make a difference. Now I know I've heard some people say it's not how much you make, but it's what you save or what you do with it. Nonsense. Because if you make pennies, there's no way you're going to pay your bills, save, and invest. How much you earn is important, as well as how much you save and invest is important. The second reason, most, I would say, important second reason is poor spending and saving habits. Sometimes people have been taught, about financial literacy, but maybe they just don't follow the path, or maybe they've just fallen off the wagon. So for the young generation, choose the right career up front. For middle age, sometimes it is worth going back to school to acquire a degree where you're going to be paid a lot more. That's just something that you have to work out the numbers and see, the cost of the education versus how many more years you have left. But sometimes you don't have to return to college. I mean, how many multimillionaires do we have who actually dropped out of college? But of course, you have to be in a position where you either have a high skill or you have a lot of knowledge where you can bring value to people. The greater value that you bring to people, that's where you are able to make a lot of money. Think about it on your job. What does everyone's company do? They help people in some way or another. They solve a problem. That's why businesses exist. They exist to solve a problem. And so the bigger the problem that you can solve, the more money that you'll make. So you can start a business. There's some of you that have been thinking, wow, I have this skill or this talent. I really would love to hone this skill or talent and start a business, but life got in the way. Or you've made some excuses. Oh, I don't have the money, or I don't have the time, or this or that. Whatever it is, I'm telling you today, make a decision to change your life and start making those steps towards preparing to change your future. A lot of people spend more time planning a vacation than they do planning their own future retirement. And that's pretty sad. You'll spend a whole lot of time thinking about where you want to go, dreaming about, that destination, packing your clothes, filling out the time off requests from work. But how much time have you really sat down to plan your future? So that's backwards. Here in America, we've been taught to just focus on things that are frivolous. They want you to continue spending. They want you to be uneducated financially. Because if you're uneducated financially, you're going to spend all your money irresponsibly, and that's going to force you to keep working. So the reason why a lot of people fail is because they have a poverty mindset. They think that the circumstances under which they were born keeps them locked in a certain position. Well, I refuse to believe that. They have a lack of vision. They can't see their future self. You have to dream about where you want to be. Because think about it. Again, let's go back to the vacation thing. How can you go on vacation if you don't first have a destination? You first know where it is you're going. Then you can plan, your if you have to get airfare or if you have to map out a route if you're going to drive there. You pack your bags, you got your money, you know what excursions or what activities you're going to involve yourself in. This is the same thing with your future. You have to have a vision. You have to map this out. Lack of opportunity. Opportunity is not going to come knocking. You have to find it. No strategy. I'm telling you, in my life, I have generally had a plan A and a plan B. And both plan A and B failed. So then I say, you know what? I guess I need a C, D, and E. But I'm not going to stop. When that boulder comes rolling right in front of the road that I thought was my clear path to my destination, I can either stop and just give up and turn around, or I can figure out a way to blast through it, go around it, whatever. But you have to have strategy. Some have lack of guidance. Some, they're void of purpose. And then self-doubt. A lot of people have self-doubt. I still go through that. And I remember sometimes, when I would feel a little bit depressed, and I'm like, I accomplished all those other goals that I set at 15, but these other new goals that I have, I'm not getting anywhere. This is hard. And my daughter looks at me, and she's like, really, Mom? Really? And I have to stop, and I have to say, okay, let me stop complaining. Let me take my own advice, and I kid you not. My book is, I've got the physical copy, I've got the ebook, and the audiobook. I remember turning on the audiobook and listening to my own self speak. And I'm thinking, yeah, you're right. And I'm thinking, after I finished listening to my own book, I got re-energized. And I'm like, man, I can do this. So the other thing is struggle. I'm going to tell you this. Rather you are struggling to pay your bills month to month or struggling towards a higher goal that seems unachievable you're going to struggle because that's just what life is. Either you're going to struggle and be poor or you're going to struggle towards a higher goal. I'd rather struggle towards a higher goal. Oh, you said, there you go. So let's go over some famous quotes. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Frederick Douglass. Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. Arnold Schwarzenegger. The gem cannot be polished without friction, nor man perfected without trials. Now, when we go through our trials and we all make bad financial decisions, I've made my share of bad financial decisions, bad investments. But the question is, am I going to learn from it? Am I going to allow myself to be perfected? Am I going to teach other people how to avoid those same pitfalls? Definitely yes. So what I learned a long time ago is that life is a game. You're either going to play it to win or you're going to lose at life. And I'd rather play it to win. And the best way to win at life is to build an army. And I'm not talking about a physical army. I'm talking about your dollars. Your dollars, that's your army. Your dollars will fight your financial battles for you. The more dollars you own, the stronger your position becomes in the game of life. I look at it this way. I don't like to compare myself to other people. And, I hear people comparing themselves, they're in competition with a family member or they're in competition with a neighbor or a friend. I'm in competition. I'm not in a competition. I'm in a war against poverty. I hate poverty. I've been in a position of lack, and that's just not a place where I'm willing to go ever again. So for every dollar you spend frivolously, there is one less soldier you have on the battlefield of life. So think about that. The next time you think about buying something that's shiny and pretty that you know you really don't need, if it's going to set you back in your finances, you need to set it back, okay? Every dollar has a job. Some rescue while others recruit more soldiers. The ones that rescue you are the ones that pay your bills so that you don't end up homeless or carless or without communication because your phone bill wasn't paid. The recruiters are the ones that you invest that go out and capture more dollars. So what do wealthy people do? Wealthy people are resilient. A lot of times, some of the success stories that we hear, we only hear about their ending success. We didn't hear about their struggle on the way up. But a lot of people who are successful today, they failed many times, but you don't hear about the failures because they don't dwell on them. So you have to be resilient. If you challenge yourself to achieve a goal and you fall short of that goal, don't give up. Be resilient. You're going to have strength in adversity. You're going to be determined, and you're going to have a positive mindset because I know you've heard this before. If you think you can do something, you'll do it. But if you tell yourself you can't do it, and you give yourself all the excuse and the reasons why you can't do it, you're not going to do it because you've already told yourself in your mind that you're defeated. So transform your financial pain into financial resilience. Now we're going to talk about budgeting because this is very important. Budgeting, the concept is very simple, but staying on track can be very difficult. And I'll tell you a story. So I guess I was about 25. So about 25 years ago, I decided that, the home that we were living in was a modest, nice home. It was about 1,200 square feet. But I knew that I had a goal of that dream home. And I started thinking to myself, man, we're really not saving enough. We earn a lot of money. Where's all the money going? And we didn't really have, this is my ex-husband and I. I'm remarried. My husband's there. But we didn't really have a firm budget. And I just pulled a number out of my head. I said, you know what? I want to save $1,000 every month. And the first month, I put that, when we got paid, that first check, I put $1,000 into savings. And then by the end of the month, I was drawing maybe a couple hundred out, 100 here, 100 there. We only saved $600 this month. Like, what the heck? What's going on? We aren't enough money. So I had to restructure my budget. I put everything on paper, because I'm just old-fashioned. I put it on paper. You can use a spreadsheet if you want. And the next month, it didn't really do much better. So I was like, man, okay, something is going on here. And so I went to a cash system. All of the bills for the house I paid either with a check, because back then we were paying by check. But when it came to paying for my car gas, paying for food, and the spending money, I gave myself cash. I put each of them in an envelope. And when the money was gone, it was gone. And I realized, oh my God, and don't say anything because I'm still guilty of this, I would buy too much food. At the grocery store, I was just buying food just to buy it, and then throwing a lot of it away because it was sour before I even got a chance to cook it. So that was one area. The other one was I didn't realize we were spending $300 a month on fast food. Because I was like, man. So then once I realized where we were going wrong in the budget, we were smooth sailing from there. 25 years ago, saving $1,000 a month. So the thing is, it does matter how much money you make, and it does matter how you spend it. So for the average person, I'm going to give you the real of this. Wealth is created over years through consistent daily habits and actions. So some of us have developed very poor spending habits. So we have to go back and correct those habits. And the best way to do that is to put yourself on a cash system. When you use plastic, when you use that credit card, you're just swiping away or typing those credit card numbers in. You don't really track how much you're really spending. You see the damage after the fact. Well, it's too late then. So go to a cash system where you can, okay? And your actions are intentional. Those are intentional behaviors. Change those actions and those habits. So the poor mindset says, I'm going to spend first and save what's left. And what happens most of the time? There's nothing left. The wealth mindset pays their bills first, they save, then they spend what's left over. But at this point, you're mindful of what you're spending because what you have left over is much less than what you may have been used to spending frivolously. So you're going to think more carefully about those expenses. So some of you may feel that having a budget is punishing yourself, but it's not. A budget is not a restriction. It's about having a plan of how you're going to spend your money. It tells you what you should do with your money that's going to benefit your future self. Your money will no longer play vanishing tricks if you have a plan. So how many of you right now have a budget? How many of you actually stick to that budget religiously? Okay. So some of you, probably you get started real good, then all of a sudden something happens, some unexpected expense comes up, and then you fall off track, right? That's usually how it works, right? Well, over the next few months, I want you to get on budget, stay on track, and watch your money stack, okay? Because like I said, I like to look at my bank account every day. I just like to see those zeros in there. So you can get addicted to saving. I was addicted to the saving at one point. And then I kind of got to the point where I was a little too frivolous. And I had to kind of I go through these phases where I tighten up. I don't want to spend anything, and I'm counting all, oh man, I love that I was able to save this. But then there goes through times where it's like, okay, Sharnella, you met your savings goal. You can kind of relax a little bit. You can spend a little bit. But before you reward yourself, make the goal, set the goal, and stick to it. And love saving. I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun. So for financial growth, here are some objectives. The first thing you need to do is have short-term goals and long-term goals. So how many in here have short-term goals? Have you written them down? Have you actually written them down? If you have not written them down, write them down. And then make a plan, step-by-step plan, for how you're going to achieve those goals. But with regards to your finances, your immediate focus should be on cost control, and you're going to create a sensible budget. Don't just, pull some numbers out of the air. Let's be realistic, because it is better to start off with a very conservative goal, and then when you achieve that goal, you give yourself a little more motivation. It's like, wow, I did it. Then you give yourself motivation to move forward and create bigger and better goals. So again, pay your bills first, build an emergency fund. And in my opinion, an emergency fund should be minimally 6 months, minimally. And when I say emergency fund, that is every single bill, every single expense that you have in a month. You should have that times 6, minimally. And then you want to spend your expendable cash wisely. And you want to think about, does that purchase bring value to your life in any way, or are you just spending? Are you just, those rich people that you hate, are you making them richer? Those same people, I hear people talk all the time about the rich and how they hate the rich, but you can't beat them spending. They don't create anything. They don't start a business. All they do is fuss and complain about their situation and circumstances. Those people, I want nothing to do with. A lot of people actually prevent themselves from attaining the wealth that they could have because they buy too many depreciating purchases. You've probably heard the word depreciating asset. It's not an asset if it's not worth anything. If it depreciates, it is not an asset. So a lot of people, I always buy used vehicles. Yes, I buy expensive vehicles, or should I say luxury vehicles, but they're 2 years or 3 years old, and I pay cash for them. They're paid off. So avoid the expensive new cars and trucks. Designer clothing and purses. Okay, yes, I do have designer purses, but I met my goals a long time ago. Before I bought those designer purses, I would buy the knockoff ones first when I was building my wealth. And then once I got to a place where I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't made it. So now I buy the real stuff. Boats, expensive furniture, and this is another one. Every time the new iPhone comes out, I hear people talking about, oh, this phone is only a year, but here's the new one coming out. My last phone was 5 years old. That thing had to die on me before I would buy another cell phone. So don't get caught up in, oh, my car is paid off. It's time to run out and buy a new one. No, could you keep that one? Oh, my phone is paid off. What do? They contact you and say, hey, do you want this new phone? This new phone has come out. No. If it still works, it's not broken. It serves the purpose that it is used for, communication. Keep it. Instead, appreciating assets. Buy appreciating assets. Number 1 is invest in education. Education is key to increasing your wealth. You have to educate yourself in one way or another so that you can bring value to people. Increasing your education isn't always going back to school, but it's somehow, some way, putting yourself in a position where you can be of help to someone else in exchange for compensation for that help. Financial literacy, home. I hear a lot of the young generation saying that, oh, I'll never be able to, afford a home. Rent these days is outrageous. And by the time you finish paying rent and all the other high expenses, there isn't much money left over for some of the young generation. So they end up in this cycle where they never get out of renting. If you can afford to pay rent, you can afford to buy your own home, because guess what? You think your landlord, and I've heard some people say, well, my landlord takes care of all of this for me. Okay, but you're paying that expense. You think your landlord's doing that for free? No, they're making a profit. So if you can afford to pay your landlord, you can afford to make a plan where you can save and purchase a home. I'm definitely for home ownership. You could also become a property owner. I personally don't like renting, had a bad experience with a property that I rented years ago. I won't be a landlord anymore, but some people like it. If you don't want to be a landlord, you can invest in what's called REITs. They're real estate investment trusts. And if you have a financial planner, you can talk to a financial planner about which REIT you might want to invest in. Also, a business, little to no money down in a lot of cases. You start off small, you build your business. Whatever it is that you've been putting off, whatever skill or ability that you have that you can monetize, no matter how small, you figure out what that is and you create that business. Precious metals. I invest in gold and silver. Years ago, I think it was like almost 20 years ago, I think gold was at $900 an ounce. And I thought, I could afford it. I could just kick myself. Why didn't I buy it 20 years ago? I told myself, $900, I'm going to wait for that to come down. The next time I looked, it was $2,000 years later. Then the next time I looked, it was like almost $3,000. I'm like, you know what? This isn't going anywhere. I just need to go ahead and buy the gold. The silver, though, we bought silver at really low prices years ago. And so the silver is definitely paying off in a big way. But over time, gold will pay off too, because it's never going to go down. I've been waiting for over 20 years. Art. Some people may have heard of this, where it's almost like crowdfunding, where they either several people or hundreds of people can buy art through Masterworks, and you can own a piece of art, your portion. And as that art appreciates, it's almost like a stock. You can build a little bit of comfort there. And then compound interest with your investments. So in other words, I want you to change the way you think. Stop buying depreciating assets, and before you purchase something or spend your hard-earned money on it, think about, okay, is this an asset or is this a liability or a debt? Is it going to appreciate or is it going to depreciate? So that's what I want you to think about. So for long-term growth, many of you probably have retirement plans through your job. Definitely take advantage of the retirement plan through your job. But if you are going to do other investments outside of your work, thoroughly investigate for yourself. Do not go to a financial planner and take their word for whether or not this investment is actually good. Study it, learn it, understand it for yourself. I've made some good investment choices and I've made some poor investment choices. And whenever I didn't thoroughly investigate for myself is when I lost. So don't let anyone tell you that, oh, this is a great investment. Study it for yourself. And even with your company-sponsored plan, if you have any control over where that money goes or what it's invested in, take the time out. Too many people say, oh, I'm too busy for this. You're too busy for your future? Again, let's go back to vacation. How much time you can spend hours planning a vacation. Can't you spend 15 minutes a day investigating an investment before you put your hard-earned money into it? Now with your savings and emergency fund, I put my emergency fund in a CD so that it can earn interest. And it just sits there and the interest compounds. Because I know that it's money that, I'm not going to need. But in the event that I do need the money, then you break the terms of the CD. Your initial investment is protected. Make sure with your particular establishment, because with mine it is. My initial investment is always protected. I just won't get the interest. But you never let your soldiers sit there idle. Remember, these are the soldiers that are out there capturing other soldiers. That's making money in your sleep. So when you invest in assets such as a business, stocks, real estate, or your skills, your money goes to work for you. It fights, it earns, it brings back reinforcements. So wealthy people focus on making money in their sleep. They deploy money to make more money. Poor people make their money work for others. They burn money and let the ashes fly in the wind. They just burn through the money. They don't know where it's gone. They look up and, they've been saying for decades. Oh, I'm going to save. Oh, I'm going to save. Oh, I'm going to save, over and over and over again like a broken record. Don't let that be you. A lot of people they would rather spend money on fast food rather than spending money on something that is going to nourish them. I'm talking about mentally. Because I remember this one lady walked up to me and she says, oh, I really enjoyed, your talk, your speech and everything. I'm so far in debt and, I don't spend well, I don't spend my money well. And I said to her, well, my book is only $22. Once you read my book, I've got my email address in there. You can ask me any question you want. We can have a conversation. But I'm done giving people free information, and then they come back and they ask me the same questions over and over again. The answers are already in that book. Almost any question you're going to ask me, it's in the book. But are you ready to invest just $22 in yourself? She said no, and she walked away. So the thousands of dollars that she's in debt, she likely will still be in debt 6 months, a year from now, or maybe even longer because she refused to gain knowledge for just $22. And what I'm saying is you can spend $22 on a single meal. Or you go to a fast food, McDonald's. My God, they're all expensive. For 2 people, you can spend $22. And what are you going to do? You're going to eat it. You're going to ingest it. You're going to excrete it. And it's not going to do anything for you except put you in bad health because it's bad for you anyway. But you need to think about feeding yourself with knowledge and wisdom. And trying to get people to understand that. It was the most frustrating thing. And, I remember my husband was actually, he helped to read over my book. I had the word fool in there so many times. He said, I get your point. You're straight to the point, but maybe you should take fool out. How many times did we take it out? Maybe 10. Yeah. Because sometimes, I'm really passionate about financial literacy. I'm passionate about teaching people. And it truly gets frustrating when I talk to someone and I give them free knowledge and then they come back to me, several months later, because I've had friends do that, come back to me several months later asking the same questions. So, I'm a financial coach. So I had a friend. We've been friends for 30 years. And we both started at the same level. And over the years, she's seen how, everything has flowered for me. And over the years, I would give her financial advice, and she wouldn't take it. So then finally, I said to her, you know what? If you want my financial advice, you're going to have to hire me as your coach. Because when you put your money behind it, then I think you're really going to take advantage of what I have to say. And that's what it took. So this is my book, Help a Fool Spend His Money. It's a wonderful book, like I said, not just because I wrote it, but I truly believe that it came from my heart. It took me over a year and a half to write it. I don't believe in allowing AI to write a book for you. I actually read for my own book, so it's my voice on the audio. Because a gentleman who is dyslexic, he said, I really would love to read your book, but I'm not going to be able to follow the words. And he said, please don't use the AI voice. And I was like, okay, yeah. He's like, I want to hear your voice. So that's how I end up reading for the audio. And then another individual said, well, I like ebooks. So I'm like, okay, I got to have all 3 versions here. So I got all 3 versions. But moving on, I know what it feels like to not have a clear financial plan because I was in my early 20s. I knew that I wanted a better life for myself, but I had to teach myself. And I taught myself through reading books, reading articles, and also eventually hiring a mentor. And I learned the most when I learned from someone who was in the position of where I wanted to be. You don't listen to the people that are on your same level who are struggling. You listen to someone who's where you want to be. That's the person that's going to give you the information and the knowledge that you need to achieve the goals that you want. So let's do a recap, because all of this is very simple, and I'm sure all of this you've heard before, but maybe it just didn't sink in. So let's go back over it. You're going to spend less than you earn. And you may look at wealthy people and say, whoa, you know, they spend all this money on a Rolls Royce, they got all this money. That's because they've got so much more. But don't try to follow that pattern. And if you're subscribing to people who just talk about how much money they have and they're throwing the money around and they're spending it frivolously, why are you watching them? You're wasting your time. Why don't you watch someone who's going to teach you something, right? Who's going to help you. Build an emergency fund. If you don't have at least 6 months in the bank for an emergency fund, you need to start building that today. Ideally, I would suggest 2 years, but first get 6 months. And once you start saving, you'll find that you actually love saving more than you love spending. And invest consistently. There's no magic trick to investing. I invest in some more risky investments. When they pay out, they pay very well, but that's not something that I would suggest for everyone, because it's not for everyone. You really have to know what you're doing. But we've made as much as 20% on our investments, but they are very risky, and you have to be able to absorb, the risk if things go bad. But the stock market, there isn't a whole lot in the stock market that I really trust. I know the S&P 500 has always been, pretty good. I have invested in the S&P 500, but we are private money lenders, so we loan to investors who have real estate projects where they either need to purchase the home, they purchase the home, and we give the funds to make the renovations. And we usually get about 15% interest return on that. Like I said, sometimes we've done 20%, but it's very risky. So that's not something that I would recommend you guys, start off doing. Compound interest. Again, I'm sure everyone knows what compound interest is. You take your initial investment, you make interest on it, you take the initial investment plus the interest and you reinvest it, and you're making interest on top of interest. You need to increase your income. So brainstorm, figure out what you need to do in order to increase your income. Is there anything that you've overlooked? Any talent that you have where someone else would be willing to pay you for it? If there's a business idea that you had and you put down because maybe someone else thought that that was a stupid plan, maybe you take a chance on yourself and you try that business. Who knows, it just might work. Avoid paying high interest on debt. Well, the best way you can do that is to have a good credit score. And as a financial coach, I help people repair their credit. I help business owners as well as individuals and couples. Buy appreciating assets and multiple streams of income. Like I mentioned, well, that's not all that I do. I'm a realtor as well. So sometimes some of my clients, once they get into a position where they're financially healthy, I encourage them to buy a home. And I'm a realtor as well. So I have fun going out helping them buy a home after I've helped them repair their credit. It's a lot of fun. So I didn't list everything that I do, but I have multiple streams of income. And when one capsizes, I've got others. But if you only have one source of income and that's your job, they've got you. They've got you handcuffed to that job. Let's start figuring out what else we can do on the side to make money. Because if at any time that job decides that they no longer value you, or what happens if you get ill and you can't work, what are you going to do? Have a backup plan now before that day comes. And I can't express this enough. Invest in yourself. Educate yourself in one way or another. Figure out how to fill the gaps. Figure out what people need. And then go develop the skills to help those people in need. So right now, I want you to take a picture of this, because this is something that I want you guys to recite to yourselves every week. And once you've taken a picture, then we're going to speak it. Because I believe in speaking positivity into the universe. I don't like negativity. When people are around me talking about what they can't do, what can't be done, I'm like, okay, this may be difficult. There's going to be some obstacles. We're going to have to make some tough choices, but I remove can't. And I start asking, how can I? How can we? So I want you guys to repeat after me. Money flows to me easily and abundantly. I am open and ready to receive unlimited prosperity. I think like a multimillionaire because I'm becoming one. Wealth is my natural state of being. I attract success and opportunities wherever I go. And when you repeat those things, you begin to believe them. You have to believe it into your spirit. Because there's some of us who've maybe there's outside influences who have told us we can't do a thing. Or maybe we've told ourselves, well, I'm not talented enough to do a thing. Maybe where you are today, you're not talented enough, but it doesn't mean that your future isn't bright and that you can't become talented enough. So when you recite positive affirmations like this, positivity flows into your spirit, okay? And whoever is around you that may be discouraging you or being negative, I recommend you separate yourself from that. Sometimes that's family, sometimes it's friends. And I found that through the last few decades, I've had to eliminate some people from my life, and I'm better for it. So I have a YouTube channel, and this is free information. So if you take out your phones and you go to YouTube, I don't know if any of you are on YouTube, you can subscribe to Financial Fix with Sharnella. I have a couple hundred videos. They're all inspirational, motivational, and educational. And on the next page, I do have other social media. Has everyone had an opportunity to take it down? Okay. Here are my other, I'm not on TikTok as much, but my daughter says I need to get on TikTok. TikTok just, yeah, I'm just like, I don't know about that, but I don't know. She's the young generation. She says that's what I have to do. So there's not a whole lot on TikTok yet. But if you have any questions, it's helpful@yahoo.com. Coaching is Sharnella@sharnellaclark.com. I'd love for you to follow me on YouTube so that you can continue to get additional financial information. I don't want to move too fast. Does anyone else need more time? Okay. So what do I do as a financial coach? I help with goal setting. That's the number one key, right? You got to have a goal, your destination. I help people create actionable and realistic plans. So we start off small, and then we build on those small dreams, and we create bigger dreams. I motivate, and I hold people accountable. I do give homework. So when we come back and when we talk and you haven't done some of the things, I've had clients, don't do some of the things that I ask them to do, then I ask them, why did you hire me? If you're not going to listen, why did you hire me? And I'm not always, I don't want to be too hard on myself. Everything that I do, it comes from my heart. And when excuses come out, I let the person know that, okay, that's an excuse. So I'm very blunt. But again, if I told you what you wanted to hear, would you grow? You would be stuck in the same rut. that you were in before we started coaching. So I support and I help give empowerment for you to do what you need to do. No, I will not pay your debt for you. One of my clients asked that. Well, why can't you just give me the $100,000? Because you are supposed to work your way out of this so that you don't do this again. If I just come to your rescue and loan you the money, now I'm going to be the creditor. I don't want that. So I listen, I ask questions, the right questions, so that I can better understand how to help you. I provide constructive feedback and help identify your strengths and your weaknesses. I give guidance on how to overcome obstacles because, again, budgeting and setting goals, that's the easy part, establishing the budget and setting the goals. But the day-to-day is real. The struggle gets tough. And sometimes people get knocked off their focus. And so I'm there to kind of guide you back. I'm like that little angel on your shoulder. Remember what you said you wanted to do? Remember what you said you wanted to accomplish? Well, let's do that. I help you improve your financial position. So being broke and uneducated in finances is expensive and dangerous, because if you keep making the same financial mistakes, you're going to continue to do that. And one day it will be too late to correct, because we all have a time in our lives where earning money that's going to come to an end. And we want to be in a position where we've already prepared for that time today. So financial coaching, I help people bridge the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it consistently. I'm not selling magic potions. Again, I won't give you the loan to pay off your debts, but I will help you break financial habits that keep you stuck. I will help you stay focused when life gets difficult. So at the end of the coaching, you will be able to independently do your own financial planning, think differently, manage money better, and have increased opportunities. And I hear this a lot. I can't afford a financial coach. That's exactly why I want to help you, because right now you feel like you can't, because you're stuck in a rut and you need someone to help you get out of that rut. Some people keep spinning their wheels and they just sink deeper and deeper in the mud. So I'm here to try to help get you out of that mud, but my time is not for free. So I'm not super expensive, but it's definitely worth every dime. So some people, I find that they feel ashamed because they've made some bad financial decisions. And I'm going to say I've made some bad financial decisions. And I have beat myself up over and over again, but that does no good. When you make bad financial decisions, whether you meant to or not, whether it was consciously or unconsciously, don't beat yourself up. It's not going to make things any better. What you have to do is pick up and start again. Figure out how to get back on track and do things the right way. So this is my email, Sharnella@sharnellaclark.com, if you are interested in having first a discussion with me, because I'll be honest with you, I can't help everyone. If the mindset isn't right, I can't help. But I would have a free, conversation with you to figure out if we're a good fit for each other. So if you're interested, I have some forms over there. You can just fill out your name, email, and telephone number, because sometimes handwriting can be a little bit difficult to read properly. So having your phone number would be great. But my book is also here. It's called Help a Fool Spend His Money. I also just want to let you know one of my businesses is my daughter and I. Well, my daughter wanted to start a clothing line, and she wasn't quite sure what she wanted, how she wanted to design the clothing. So she was kind of stuck. And when I was stuck, when I was writing my book, it was taking me a long time to write the book. I would start and I would stop, start and stop. And she came back to me on 3 different occasions, and on the 3rd occasion, she said, "Mom, I think you just need to start writing that book." And I appreciated her words. I appreciated her pushing me to do what I said that I was going to do. She was holding me accountable. So I did the same thing for her. She invited me into the business. And the name of our business is Motivational Expressions. Everything that we do is motivational and inspirational. There are people out there who don't have someone like the two of us had for each other. They don't have that encouragement. So we thought, you know what? Why wear somebody else's brand when you can wear something that inspires and motivate you to be the best version of yourself? So this is just a few of the designs that we have. And if you care to take a look, you can take a picture of this. You can also go to our website, motivationalexpressions.com. We find that majority of the people who buy our clothing are actually 30 and over. And initially, we were really trying to focus on the real young generation, but we sell the t-shirts and the hoodies and the sweatshirts, and they're mostly 30 and over because they really get it. I think they've lived enough in life that they understand what motivation is and they can appreciate it. So thank you again for listening. I'm so thankful that all of you came out. I hope that I said something today that helped to inspire you, to motivate you. There's some of you in this room, perhaps maybe you've been thinking about starting a business, but you didn't think that maybe you could do it. I'm telling you, make a run for it. Go for it. Because living with regret is worse than trying and not achieving. You know, you might as well go ahead and try. You know, I mean, you could always go back to what you're doing, the job, you know. So thanks again. And if you guys are interested in purchasing my book, again, I have the physical copy. I have the ebook and the audiobook as well. Thank you so much.